Welcome to another episode of the Voices of Boyle Podcast, and this week I'm chatting with Barry Cryan. Barry takes us on a journey from his school days at St Mary's College in Boyle during the late 1990s to overcoming the challenges of Lyme disease and ultimately building a thriving online business that's transforming how entrepreneurs manage their time and their productivity. Before we get into the episode, I'd like to let everyone know that all episodes are now also available to listen to on YouTube. So head over to youtube.com/@voicesofboyle or just search for Voices of Boyle in YouTube and you'll find everything there. So with that, let's get into this week's episode with Barry. Welcome to the Voices of Boyle, Barry. Glad to have you here for an episode.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you very much.
You were a few years behind me, I believe, in school. I left St Mary's in 1996, so I don't think you were even in first year.
I missed you by 2 years.
so you hadn't come in
98, September 98.
In first year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I missed you by 2.
So tell us a bit to start off about what life was like back in St Mary's, back in the late 90s.
Well, it was a shock for me, I can tell you, coming from a rural national school in Kilfada. There was only 2 other lads in my class and they went to Ballymote, so I had to come in to Boyle on my own. There was neither boys nor girls. I was the only one out of the whole class that was coming to Boyle, so I was like, didn't think much of it until I landed in. And I remember the first day in there, we landed into the annex and we were there for most of the day. And what we were doing, tests and different things like that. I suppose to try and weed out the wheat from the chaff, I suppose. And we were all there anyways. And I was looking around and I was like, Jesus, this is mad. Like the place was, it was like a zoo. That was just day one. There was cheers going and tables flying. And every time that the teacher would leave, a supervisor, it was just descended into chaos. And I was like, I remember sitting down the very back, and I still remember the lads that was sitting beside me. There was Padraig McGettrick, I think, in front of me. Aaron Sharkey was there beside me. Nicholas Galler, I think David Clark were all there close to me. Like, so I was kind of getting introduced to all these lads, and they were all questions to me too about who I was and what I was doing and where I was from. And it was a massive eye opener, I can tell you. Coming from that rural school into St Mary's, but by God, it was a massive shock. But it was something that, Jesus, I was never so glad that I did it, you know.
Because would you have felt nervous now coming in from the country coming into the town kind of?
I tell you what, I told them at home that I'm going to Ballymote with my 2 friends, and I had a big fight over the summer that I was going to Ballymote, and eventually, my parents they typically wouldn't give in and to things, so I knew I was fighting a losing battle, so I said, right, I'll go into Boyle. But I was, definitely going in on my own. That there was nobody at all. And so absolutely, I was a bit apprehensive going in, but you had to learn quick, I tell you, in there.
And what was the atmosphere like in school back then, compared to maybe even what we see now with the younger generation that are in school now? What was the atmosphere like? Was it a very easy going? I remember it was very, very easy going. Maybe too easy.
Yeah, it was. It was like, I remember you'd be there and like me, I don't know, I was 12 going into secondary school. There'd be lads there, and in 5th and 6th year, they were grown men, like, they were men, like, and I was still a boy, and I was some shock going into the same environment as them. And I remember the big 2-story building there with St Mary's wrote on the front of it, and I remember they'd be outside the doors, the 2-story building. And I'd walk around the back of the school. The teacher would be there in the class waiting for all these lads to go in. And I'd walk around the front and they'd be all outside having a fag. And by God, that teacher, I wouldn't name him, but
things have changed.
He was not going to come out and tell them lads what to do and put out their cigarettes and come into class. They were out having a fag outside the door, and there was nobody in the classroom, so it was fairly relaxed. I often think, and I said it at the time, like, really, I don't know what you'd have needed to do to get, suspended or God knows expelled from that school, because I tell you, and those teachers were tested, and I think relaxed is a good way of putting it.
I think being a teacher back in those days must have been very tough.
Yeah,
I really do. Like, I know certain teachers in St. Mary's, and it's the same with every school, got a harder time than others.
Oh,
that's just the nature of
definitely.
But it was tough being a teacher, I think, back in those days.
I look back now and I feel bad, like for me and my behaviour and people are, the stuff that would go on. I actually feel bad for the teachers now, because you don't think about it at the time. All you think about it is the crack, like. But you must kind of think like how they must be feeling, like going into that chaos every day. I remember. Like there was one certain teacher, and there was a fairly shabby door on his classroom, and the door was made of glorified cardboard, basically. So literally every week, somebody would take a run at the door and go straight through the middle of the door and end up in the classroom. There was one point they got such a disgust of replacing these doors that they just left this big opening in the middle of the door, so people would walk in through the hole in the middle of the door to get into the classroom. They wouldn't even bother unlocking it. So this went on for a couple of weeks, and eventually they worked up the funds to replace the door anyway. But this used to go on every week. This classroom door someone would go straight through it, and there'd be a big person-sized shape in the middle of the door where someone would have ran straight through the middle of the door. And but this is the crack that used to go on. Like, it used to be just constant,
Yeah.
And like your stuff you couldn't even talk about now,
Oh no, definitely not.
I remember, like, once I left school, like, I remember, like, you went to college and different things, you'd be telling the people about the school, and I had to stop because people would be thinking you were mad in the head or something. They wouldn't even believe you, the stuff that'd be going on and the crack. And like, I remember one day, like, myself and two lads, we disappeared anyways, and we said, we'll skip off for a couple of hours. We went down the town, and well, lo and behold, the next day, well, we were missed anyway. And I remember Don Conlon was the principal at the time. He came over to me, and he was like, himself and Pádraig Callahan, the two of them landed over to me in the middle of assembly at break the next day, and they're like, where were you yesterday for this, between this time and this time? And I was like, normally I'd be good at coming up with an excuse or coming up with something, but Jesus, my mind went blank this day anyway. And could I think of anything to say? And I was there, it felt like about 10 minutes, probably 10 seconds, but I was there waiting and thinking, trying to think something to say. And I think, I don't know which of them it was, they said, look, come back to us tomorrow with a good reason why you weren't in class.
Give yourself a bit of time.
And I never came back to them, and they never came back to me, and there was nothing ever said about it. So it was gas.
How things have changed.
Oh, just stop.
Like, I remember as well, like, you'd see someone's fist through the wall from the classroom next door, especially some of the prefab rooms, how things have changed. Like, it's madness.
It is. It'd be fairly structured now. And I remember that, like, I went from there into Abbey College then, and even that was a big change. But I think even since we left, we were the last batch of the headers in that school.
I think that generation.
And I think even the teachers now, when you talk to them and stuff like that, they're saying, look at like, things changed an awful lot since you left. Like, we couldn't just wait to get you out, because we knew when you left that things would just settle down and we could actually run a normal school.
Yeah, and I think nowadays with teachers can't say boo now to a student, right? Which is complete opposite of in our day. So I suppose that also has its positives and negatives, just like back in our day when it was, but it's trying to find the balance, I suppose. But look, it is what it is.
Yeah,
it's the way things have moved on.
It is.
How would you have described yourself as a student? Would you have been a studious one, or a bit kind of, back at the class kind of carry on?
I tell you, I had no real interest now in school, or never. I say I got through. I was there for 6 years. I'd say, like, the amount of times I'd done my homework, like, you could count on two hands. Never done my homework. I remember I used to get there was a girl that had, for some reason, she had the exact same handwriting as my mother. I hope my mother doesn't listen to this, but every day it was basically her signature going on my diary and not my mother's. Freakish stuff. I don't know how I even figured out that she had the same handwriting as my mother, but that was what was happening. And I was never done my homework. A note went home. This girl had signed my homework, and we back in with the diary signed. Anyway, that I hadn't my homework done, but even I remember all the report cards and stuff going home. Like, there'd be a race against the clock to get home before the postman. My father would be farming at home, so he would be around the house quite a bit. Like, but it would be 50-50 whether he was there when the postman came or not. He could be out doing something, or it could be away or something like that. And the bus would land home at 4 o'clock, and I'd be out to the porch like a light because I'd be expecting this report card. And I intercepted Manny's a report card coming home like about me, and that's what really saved me. You know, it was like giddy. You know, could do better. It was average stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple of things I enjoyed, the woodwork, engineering, stuff like that, but like sitting me down like in English class or French or something like that, and like it was a waste, you know, because I like languages, anything that was grey, you know, grey area. Look at this and you know, almost give it your own slant. Like, no, like physics and maths and all that kind of stuff, where it was black and white, you had a formula, it was either right or wrong. Great, engineering, all that kind of stuff, but the other stuff, no interest and no, not really any good at it either. Certain things like maths, physics, things like engineering, things like that, I had an interest in. And everything else was kind of, I'd be
by the way,
more or less down the back, like having the crack.
And were you involved then with any sports activities in the?
I would have been, yeah, I suppose. Gaelic, really. It was either Gaelic or soccer. I never really played any soccer, so it was always Gaelic. But I went in, and that was the big thing. I would play at the national school for the local club, Eastern Harps, and then I went in there. So I was keen to make an impression, because I knew that none of the teachers would have known me or anything like that. So I said, geez, I'll have to make a good impression here. And of course, it was Tony Conboy. I was running the show with the football then, and I remember going up for the first training, and I remember I never got on as much football as in all my life. I was getting ball, I was going up and down the field, I was all over the place, and I tried to make such an impression that I made too good of an impression. He thought this guy must be like a forward or something like that, or a midfielder, because I played just in the full back line, like, you know, up to that point, and he stuck me in. Tony then stuck me in wing forward, and it was a disaster. I never played there before. Eventually, anyways, during the year, he moved me back to quarterback, where I was a bit happier. But it was used to be the excitement, even just thinking back. Like, Tony would like be there, and he'd get the team, and he'd pin it up on the notice board, and he'd be there wondering, when is this team going up, and then trying to strain yourself over everyone else to see where you're playing or where you're not. And that was my start there with the football side of things. But really, I think the big motivator and driver, like we were very average probably as a group, but it was getting away. Like, you'd have the whole day, like,
sure,
the whole day.
Oh yeah, it was an excuse.
It was a great excuse.
Yeah.
And then you come back, and you wouldn't go back to class, like, you'd head down the town for the rest of the day.
That's
then,
right,
and you'd be messing down the pleasure grounds or a roundabout or walking around.
It was written off back the rest of the day.
The rest of the day was a write-off. It could be a home game, and you'd be just given the rest of the day nothing to be said. So that was the big thing. Like, if you were away, then you get a bag of chips, and you get into the shop, and you'd have a bit of crack on the way and stuff like that. And that was it then. But we were never good enough to win it. I think the first year was probably the best team we had. We had a great group of lads, but we had some temperamental characters in the team. We had some good footballers, temperamental characters. Training was probably, I know we probably didn't train maybe as consistently as maybe other teams either. Some lads would be coming and going, and that was probably the best team we had, was with that first year team. And I think we got to a quarter final in Connacht, something like that, or a semi final. And we got to the Roscommon county final. We played, remember, Garbally above in Hyde Park. That was a great day, like, above, and they gave us a bit of a hockey on that day, and it was downhill from there with regards to the football for the rest of it. Yeah, that was about the peak first year.
And then to kind of, do you have any favourite memory of your time in St. Mary's over the 5-6 years that it stand out? Like, that's like, it can be anything.
Yeah, I like just transition year was a great one, like, because we we had awful crack in transition. We were more or less left up to our own devices.
You did not,
for the year.
really?
No, nothing. We were more or less left up to our own devices, and like I remember like so many things like we just were let loose on. Like even we're supposed to be doing this out in the forest park. We were supposed to be doing like driving lessons. Well, whoever the instructors were, anyway, they had 2 or 3 cars, and they done driving lessons for about an hour, and they went for like a cup of tea or for something to eat, then didn't come back for till nearly the end of the day. I don't know where they were gone, but I remember the sun was shining, it was such a great day out there, and we spent 4 or 5 hours just messing around the forest park. Like that was unreal. And there was so many things like that in transition year. We went another day, like we used to have to go up and down to the girls' school for basketball, but for some reason, one of us, I don't know which of us, instead of turning left to head up, towards Marion Road to head up that direction, we went right and started hitting for the Boyle Celtic pitch. And we done this big loop. We went out to the wooden bridge and we went down the N4 and we went up the Kimmer up and up around the green. We were gone for 3 or 4 hours missing. There was a big investigation from the school to see where these lads were. There was no sign of them, and that was awful crack. Because we got I don't know. I think we got banned from PE for about 3 or 4 months afterwards or something. But it was awful crack. Things like that. Transition with great freedom, and the last year we were in school as well, it was mighty crack. Because I done transition year, then we joined up with another gang of headers, in 5th year and 6th year, like Brian Egan and Gavin Brennan and like Colin Degnan and all these lads, like, and we just clicked. I remember seeing these lads a year behind us, and we were like, them lads a year behind us. You never had any time for the lads a year behind you for some reason. No. And a load of respect for the guys above you. Oh, massive respect. The lads ahead of you couldn't do any wrong for some reason. But we had savage crack when we got in with them, and we just clicked. And the crack with them and the new school was unreal as well. And were you there for the? I was there for the first 2 years in the new school. Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Interesting. So what was that like then? All of a sudden to be mixed instead of just being segregated. Yeah, that was brilliant. I was wondering how it would go. I was wondering how the whole thing would gel together, and like, sure, yourself, we didn't basically know nearly the girls at all in the other school, like, and apart from maybe seeing them on the bus on the way home or something like that. But Jesus, we clicked mighty with the girls. Like, they were just as up for the crack as we were, and we made great friends with them, and they were as good as friends as the lads at the end of it, And but it was a kind of a transition period from where they were trying to recalibrate the way we were, and look, at the girls probably help calm us down a level or two as well. Whereas we can contain things a little bit. We couldn't be throwing tables around the place, or they were jumping through doors with the girls there. So they kind of help us kind of calibrate our behaviour a bit. So probably that the level of craziness took a big decrease once it joined up. I did, yeah. That definitely took a level down, but they tried to take us down another couple of levels there, but they tried and they couldn't make it work. They just eventually, I think, they kind of gave up on us, the teachers and management, because they're just like, okay, it's a ticking clock. They're going to be out the door soon, and they were just trying to corral us as much as they could until we left the school. So, yeah, but, so then Leaving Cert came and went, and you belted off the college. That's right, yeah. Where did you go to college? Down to the IT in Sligo there. It's ATU Sligo now. So I head off down there. What were you studying? Health and safety. Okay. Yeah, health and safety. It was like putting together the CEO. It was like putting a pin in it, basically, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, whether even go to college or what. But everyone was handing in the CEO form, so I handed in the CEO form as well, and that was kind of top. It was something random like sound engineering in Limerick that was originally top. The couple of lads in the class, I think it was Brian Egan and Kevin Healy, were like, you know what, it'd be great, the 3 of us now will head off to Limerick and we'll have a mighty time of it. And then I was getting a bit closer to the CEO deadline. I was like, I don't know about this sound engineering crack. You know what, safety sounds a better bet. I'll put health and safety down instead. Didn't say that to the 2 lads, and the 2 lads then were like onto me a bit close to it. Maybe you should think about, if there's something else you might like to do. Sure, the 2 lads had done the same thing. They had changed their choices from Limerick, and none of the 3 of us told each other. So we all could have, we could all have been to different places. So And I ended up, I just literally got the exact points I needed to go down, and that's where I headed off to Sligo then.
And you spent 3 or 4 years, was it?
I ended up 5 years down there.
5 years.
Yeah, I went into health and safety, and then I went into environmental science after that. The recession was kind of kicking in at that time, so I was like, I'll try and drag this out another year or two and see what I can do down there, and maybe things might have improved by the time I left college. But
and then graduate, and then did you go straight into work, or did you do?
Look, there was no jobs out there. It was basically job hunt. I was on work experience, and I managed to convince them to keep me on a couple extra months, but they were like, look, we've pulled the arse out of this basically now. We can't keep you here any longer. It was only supposed to be for 3 months. It ended up being 5. And I was like, right, I have to try and find something now. And I was looking, there was nothing out there. It was absolutely nothing. So I said, look, I'll do the ECDL course, and Forth down there. And like they were going to give me, like, I think €250 a week, so I was like, sure, I was used to having nothing in college, so I said, look, €250 a week, and it's going to keep me going while I keep looking for jobs. So I said, fine. I was living at home. I said, that's plenty to live on. I was grand. So I went down, I was doing that for 3 or 4 months, and I seen an advertisement come up for a job in Amcor in Sligo, and I was like, Jesus, I've literally, in all my life, I've never seen one job advertised in Sligo in health and safety. So I said, look, I'll apply for this and see what happens. I didn't think there was a hope. They rang me anyways, and I came in for the interview, done the interview, and I remember I was around early November and nothing. And then I remember chatting to lads at Christmas and a night out, and I was like, them flippers, them, I could say something worse, but I won't, because they gave me the job at the finish. But they never rang me back. The least they could have done is ring me and tell me I didn't get the job. But then suddenly in January they gave me a call, and they were like, oh, if you're still interested, we'll take you on. Because I'd done 2 interviews, an aptitude test and everything, and maybe it was the aptitude test, or it wasn't even, it was more like a psychological test, I think they brought me through. It was some online thing. I never seen anything like it before. And I was like, oh, maybe I failed that. Maybe my 6 years in school in Boyle, maybe that kind of was a blemish on my record. I don't know. But anyways, in January that they rang me and said, look, your job is yours. And I went in there anyways. And that was my eye opener into the real world of work and employment and health and safety. And that was the start of, I suppose, my professional career.
Yeah. Now, obviously, I wouldn't have known you other than seeing you online a lot. And we're going to get into where your online business kind of comes into play. But you did tell me that you were working pretty hard. You were getting really fatigued, which led into being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. So right. Maybe give us the kind of background into those. Was that around 2014-ish?
In around that, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was in around, I remember March 2014, because I had all the dates and things for when I had to go, when I was going down to consultants and different things. So I had to kind of almost put it in chronological order. But it was around March 2014. I just woke up one morning and I just felt like I had a kind of a flu, or I was really lethargic, kind of flu-like symptoms, and I managed to kind of pull myself through for a few days. And I said, look, I need to take a day off here, and took a day off from work anyways, and came back no better. And then this went on days, weeks, and I was like, geez, this is strange now. And went to the doctors and got tests, and it actually kept getting worse. It went from flu-like symptoms into really, really bad chronic fatigue, into brain fog, completely lost short-term memory. I'd have a conversation with somebody and I wouldn't have even remembered what we had started talking about. Literally, I could be 30 seconds or a minute into, and I was bluffing my way through work and stuff like that, because I hadn't a clue. Someone would ask me to do something, I'd be gone. I wouldn't even remember that I was talking to them. I remember I used to have to go into the bathroom at work every probably hour and a half, to go in, close the door behind me and try and rest my eyes for 20 minutes to recharge me for another hour and a half, and then go to bed when I come home. And this is the crack that was going on. But what was going on in the country, to doctors and consultants and sleep studies and everything I could think of, and even alternative treatments, and wasn't getting any answers. And it was struggling basically to do my job. I often say I was probably getting about 1 day's work done in every 5, to be honest, and because of it. And I was like, there's a ticking clock here. They're not going to keep me here forever if I can't do my day's work. And
were you worried at any stage, like seriously worried, like about how you felt that this was going on, as you said, weeks, months?
Yeah.
And because you said you woke up one morning, was it literally, there was no kind of leading up to that? It was just you woke up and you had this feeling?
Well, there's strange things that happened to me in the kind of couple of years before that. Like there was like the year before that. Literally, I started getting aches and pains in my stomach and into my back and really crippling pains. And so I went down to hospital. Like they done tests and basically said you've acute acute kidney failure. And I was like, Jesus, all right. And they couldn't find any reason why. But over a period of about a week, that kind of corrected itself. And there was a couple of things like that in the years leading up to it that was strange that they couldn't find any answers for. There's the year before that, I literally was another week in hospital, and where like my whole face swole up. And it was strange. Like my whole face had swollen up, and went in there, couldn't find any answers. Eventually, after a week or 10 days, it went back to normal. But weird stuff like that was happening in the lead up to this kind of, thing. But yeah, just literally then I was feeling fine, woke up one morning with flu-like symptoms, and it kind of escalated, went downhill from there. And
how did you go about getting a diagnosis?
Well, there was no answers. Went around to every doctor and consultant, went down every rabbit hole I could find, wasn't getting any answers, and I was trying alternative treatments and all this sort of stuff. Nothing was absolutely making a dent, where it was only getting worse. And I was kind of like, I just kept knocking on doors. I kept trying to see, what, like I went down so many rabbit holes that didn't lead anywhere. And I was always hopeful like that I'd find a better way. But what happened, it was, there was a woman on the paper, she's actually on the front page of Sligo Champion, and she was talking about how she had similar type symptoms and stuff like that, and she was getting treatment for this autoimmune condition. And I was like, I went down so many of these rabbit holes before. I was like, that didn't lead anywhere. I was like, sure, probably won't go anywhere. But through a series of coincidences, anyways, it turned out my wife knew her indirectly. Managed to get in contact with her. Another coincidence, she was actually in the Czech Republic getting treatment for this autoimmune condition, and she said, "Oh, no bother, sure. Look, I'll get you set up and get you tested over here with the consultant if you want." And I said, "Oh, sure, it's where to go." And I went over there and got tested, and turned out that I had the same autoimmune condition as she had. It turned out it's basically Lyme disease.
Lyme.
Yeah. So
and the obvious question I'd have there is, all the tests, all the doctors you went to in Ireland, they didn't test for Lyme.
They did.
And it didn't turn up.
No. You see, when there's probably still a big lack of expertise in this area in Ireland. Like if you say you get, say Lyme disease comes from when you get bit by a tick, basically, and it can happen there and then where you get bit by an affected tick, or it could lie dormant, which probably has happened to me. Like I got bit by ticks when I was younger on the farm and stuff like that, and it lay dormant in the system. It was only through work then and the stress and all that sort of stuff that allowed it to trigger the autoimmune condition. But what happened was that like if the test is outside of a 2-week window of the bite, then the test is completely inaccurate. So I remember I was telling one doctor that I was going out to different doctors. I was telling one particular doctor that, I'm going off to Czech Republic, going to get tested for this. And she said, "Oh, but you already were tested for it." And I said, "Oh yeah, but the test in Ireland isn't accurate." And she Googled it, and she brought up these stats in front. She says, "Oh, what about that? Look at that. Test in Ireland is 99 point something% accurate." So like I knew more than her about it, so it was that's the problem really. There's a test. I got tested for it, didn't show up anything, and so I just ticked that box off. That's another thing I don't have, and so it was.
So you went then over to Czech Republic.
Did, yeah.
How long was that treatment there?
So I was basically, I had about 6 months of antibiotics and stuff like that before, to see would that help, and that didn't work. So he was like, "Okay, you need more intensive treatment." So I went over there for a solid month then of just blasting me with a load of different stuff. Alternative treatments, antibiotics, vitamins, glutamine, loads of different stuff, like to kind of hit it and really kind of control it and get myself back to a reasonable place.
So were you living in your own accommodation in Czech Republic, or were you actually in a facility?
Yeah, I was in like this. It was like hotel kind of thing, where it was basically, there was the clinic and then there was like all the accommodation, like it was like a hotel. You go downstairs for your food and you're basically in your room, and then you go in and out for your treatments then to the, at various points in your day. You're on a timetable, like, so you go for this treatment this time and this treatment for that time, and you're basically in your room then the rest of the time on your own. And so that's also what it was. It was like a hotel / clinic type thing. It was in the middle. It was Lukovic. It was like 2.5 hours from Bratislava. It was in the middle of nowhere. And I remember like I was taking my life in my hands, driving from the airport over to it on the wrong side of the road through snow and Google Maps brought me across. Like basically, it was like driving through, some of the back roads here in Ireland. It was like there was barely the roads were barely the width of one car. There was grass in the middle of them. There was, I was going all over the place. Didn't know where I was going.
So that month that you spent there with that treatment, then Barry, that finally gave you what you had, that you had Lyme. It
Yes.
kind of solidified that. And you then, during that period of time, I think you mentioned to me that you had started to develop, or you were kind of thinking of trying to develop a system for what is ultimately now your online business about productivity.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about maybe those early days of maybe what were you thinking? What were you doing to try and see how can I get more productive with my work?
So look, as I was saying, I was basically getting about 1 day's work done in every 5. So I was like, okay, I can't get the answers from a medical point of view. I need to try and find a better way to work here, because I have to get more work done in my week than 1 day. So anyways, I started going out like social media and YouTube and all this stuff was getting really big then, and I was starting going down that rabbit hole. I knew those people out there, like there had people out there that's doing things better than me. So I was like, who are these people? What are they doing? And I started going down the whole rabbit hole of productivity and start learning what they were doing, reading books, going to seminars, going to workshops, YouTube, like all that. Taking what I was learning, testing it, seeing how it helped me, discarding what didn't work, and eventually I was getting to the point where I'd really kind of dialed this in. This is while I was still sick, because this basically was 2.5 years of this crack before I even got a diagnosis. So I had quite a bit of time to actually that I needed to actually find a better way. So what happened was that, literally when I really dialed this in, I was getting about 5 days work done in every one, which sounds crazy to most people, but when you see what you can do, like when you dial this in, like it's crazy. Like even working with a woman, she's a tax and accountancy business. She just finished with me recently. She was working between 70 to 80 hours a week. She was down to 20 after working together, and she just applied these similar systems. So it is amazing what you can do with just the right structures and systems in your days. So I knew, look at there's something in this, but I never thought about would how work for anyone else. I kind of didn't think outside of that. But I kind of started. Other people were asking me what I was doing or how I was doing it, because like all the work would land to me. Everything that like I was doing, like it wasn't really health and safety, it was everything and anything, like I was project managing, like at the extension of the factory. I was like taking on everything and anything, because like people seeing that I could do things and I could get things done, and they were like I was the go-to person for all this stuff. Okay, to actually get things done as opposed to just talking about it. And when I was over in the Czech Republic, then I just started thinking about my own office at work, and I started thinking about how I looked around and I was like, this person has no system, this person is using sticky notes, this person is using a diary. No one actually had a proper system to actually maximize what they could do in their day, and everyone was doing their best. But I was like, when I think about it, all it is, it's a skill and it's a system. We learn a lot of things in school and college and different things, but no one actually sits us down and shows us this stuff. So I was like, there's something in this. And when I was over there, then I started thinking about that. And I had a lot of time on my own to think about it. And I started documenting it and building it into something more formal, and started helping out friends and family and stuff like that, and seeing them get results. And then I was like, there's something in this kind of thing. But it was only then when COVID hit that I was like actually done anything with it. At that point, I started kind of I worked up enough courage to kind of start putting stuff out there, and it was like, remember, I hadn't even changed my Facebook profile photo in 10 years. Like, so that's how little social media stuff I would have done beforehand. But I remember I in a cold sweat making my Facebook business page live, and thinking like, what the hell are people going to think? What is this? What's wrong with this fella? Like, he's there doing, a normal day job one day, and now he thinks he's this productivity guru. So they wouldn't have known anything that was going on in the background.
I was going to say that, yeah, they wouldn't have seen what was underneath the water, if you like. And so you did you quit your health and safety? You probably then quit your health and safety job and kind of to move into this full time. Then, and you said around COVID, was it?
So not for I done this basically part time for a couple of years, where I was like transitioning. And I was kind of doing it in co with my EHS job, and I was just kind of building up the business, I suppose, over a period of years. And I didn't know where it was going to go. I never really thought it was going to be a full-time thing. I thought, you know what, I'll document something, we'll see how it goes. If it goes well, what I can do is make it into a digital program, which I did, and hopefully, people can buy that, and I won't have to actually spend too much time. It's just there online if anyone wants to buy it. But then I kind of seen people taking that and getting some results with it, and it's like I don't know the statistics. When somebody buys a book, it's like out of everybody that buys a book, I think there's like 80% of people don't even open the first page. Out of those 80%, there's only a small fraction that finishes the book, and out of that, there's only a small percentage of people that applies the information and actually gets results out of it. So it's the same with digital programs. So it's like, you know what, let's try out a coaching program and see how people can really get results. So I started coaching people through this stuff live, and I seen them really kind of getting really powerful results out of it. And I was like, that evolved then into the coaching program I have now with business owners, where I work with just like really niche down with solely with business owners to get them, because they're probably the busiest people on the planet is business owners that have their own business. They're wearing a lot of hats. They're running around the place. And I work with them now to put structures and systems in the place to, like, their time is their money. So basically I get them maximising their time on the right things of their business so they can have more time back for themselves, but also, as a byproduct, make more money as well. So that's kind of how that evolved then.
And then when I was looking on your website, there's a few different phrases in. There's the Elite Productivity Program, then there's MPP, and then there's also FAST, FAST. So maybe if you could just give listeners kind of a brief overview of some of the key principles in your program. Or
100%. So like, for some reason in my life, I always wanted to try and to short circuit the process and take shortcuts, not in a bad way, but just to find the fastest way to do things, because I never seen doing things the hard way if there was an easier way. So basically, everything I do is based on applying leverage. So if you think, well, what's leverage? Well, if you're trying to push a boulder off the top of the hill, you can push it and you can shove it and you can use a lot of time and energy and you get it going then eventually after a lot of time and effort. Or you can use a lever and apply leverage to that boulder and get it moving with less time and less effort, basically. Okay, so that's what leverage is. Okay, it's what are the smallest things you can do that's going to get you the biggest results? So most people are trying to manage their time, where they're fighting against the number of hours available and everything they have to do. What I do is I get people leveraging their time. Okay, what are the smallest things you can do that's going to get you the biggest result? If you've a list of 10 things to do, statistically, there's 2 of the things on your list that's worth 5 to 10 times more in value than the other 8 put together. So everything through the program and even beyond in their business and so on, it's working on what are the smallest things you can do that's going to get you the biggest results. And I build a system around that to allow them to do that. So the kind of core of my system is what we call my second brain time leveraging system. Okay, so the second brain. So in life, when we have to make decisions constantly about what we're going to do or what we're not going to do, we're going to do the urgent thing, or we do the email now, or now there's someone shouting for something. What happens is that leads to decision fatigue, poor performance, poor productivity. But if you have a system and a structure, you can boil 100 decisions down to one decision. Okay, just follow this next step in the process. Okay, just do this next thing, and you can compartmentalize what you're doing. So say it acts like a forcing system. Like for me, say if I'm always trying to avoid, say, sweets and sugar and stuff like that. But if I open the door of the fridge and that stuff is looking at me every time I open the fridge, well, then I have a decision to make. Will I have it now? Will I have it later? Will I have it tomorrow? And eventually I'll give in and have that stuff. So instead, to avoid it, I just don't have it in the fridge. And then my only decision then is not 100 decisions every week. It's one decision. Will I buy it when I go to the shop or not? Everything in life is down to a system. And the second brain system is like a forcing system. It gets you doing the things you need to do when you need to do them, and do the right things. Okay. So when we put in place that second brain system, it allows you to do that. So you're always working on the right things in business. You're always working on the smallest things that can get you the biggest results. But more importantly, it allows you to do it far more efficiently. And what we do then is we take that and we start ramping it up then. So what I do after that is I integrate certain flow triggers into your daily routines then. And the flow triggers is what will ramp up your output per unit of time. So the second system, we kind of talked, not all tasks are created equal, but not all time is created equal either. That's why some people can achieve, more in a year than than other people can do maybe in a decade or more. Is because it's just about the systems and the way they can compress time. So when you're operating in a state of flow, you can actually condense time. Okay, you can 5x your output for that same block of time if you're in a state of flow. So what I do is I integrate these flow triggers based on the data that I collect from their work weeks, and I integrate flow triggers then into their daily routines. And this is what gets them into a state of flow for their higher value tasks. So now they're getting more of that work done. They're getting more of their higher value tasks done. And the more of the on the business higher value stuff they get done, actually the smaller stuff even matters. And even when it does need to be done, it becomes even less important. So that's kind of the core element of it.
And then Barry, how then, just a natural question I would have, how then would your system differ than traditional time management systems?
So time management is basically, okay, it's like let's create a list. Okay, say, look, one of the classic time management principles, to-do lists. All right. So if you've to-do list there, everything is categorized from top to bottom. You're making decisions consistently about what you're going to do on that list. Even when you have things, okay, that's my priority number one, priority number two, and so on and so forth. You have to make a decision to get that priority one thing done first. And what happens is people, they come in, they have this top priority, and they just say they dip into their emails, and then they go down a rabbit hole of emails, and they see something, and then they have to action stuff, and all of a sudden they're into a meeting then, and it could be 11 o'clock, okay, and then they're on break, and then somebody hits them with something, or just something comes out, and all of a sudden that big thing that they've on their list still isn't done. So when you, the way I operate is to put in place forcing systems to get you to do the things you need to do when you need to do them. If you're operating off lists, or you're blocking your calendar, or you're doing these other time management type principles, the reason why that doesn't work is because we're right now in 2024. If you're operating off those classic time management principles, well, they're the same principles that people have been used for the last 100 years. Well, the way we're working with is obviously so different. Even in the last 5 years, the pace and the urgency that everybody demands of you has gone to a completely new level. So if you're using kind of, I'd often describe it as like trying to insert your old Apple's 1980s processor into a brand new Apple PC. Yes, it looks great, but it's going to be slow. It's going to be inefficient. Time management is an old world technology. It's all about how you leverage your time and having forcing systems to get you to do those right things in your day. So you don't have all these micro decisions to make, because there's always going to be something that's urgent. There's always going to be something that feels like it's more important. You're never going to be. Nobody's disciplined all the time. Nobody's motivated all the time. Nobody wants to do the hard thing all the time. But it's not about that. Most people think, oh, it's me, I need to be more focused and more disciplined. It's not about that at all. It's about having a forcing system to get you to do the things you need to do when you need to do them. That's the key, and that's the difference.
So I would be a big advocate of working smarter, not harder. And that's kind of been thrown around a lot these days. Are there any misconceptions with that as well? Would there be, or how do you approach, like a lot of people would probably come to you and say, look, I have only X amount of hours in the day. Do you take them on an individual case by case then and structure a program that fits in with their schedule? Is that? Yeah,
everything is customized based on the client. Like I have one woman I just finished working with there, and she runs her own business, but she only had like 2 hours available before the kids got up, and then she had about 4 hours after the husband came home. Not even that. She had maybe 5 hours a day basically to work on her business. So everything is like it's not about doing everything. It's about doing what matters. So you really have to kind of dive in and get real with what's actually important here, and that focuses the mind like a laser. Because it's like that feeling when you're going away on holidays or when you're up against a deadline. There's no way that you're going to give it into distraction. There's no way you're going to procrastinate. There's no way you're going to delay or give or say yes to this thing that you shouldn't be saying yes to. You'll focus your mind like a laser. That deadline is a forcing system. So what we do is we build custom built second brain model for that person. And like, there's obviously a lot more that goes into it, but everything is designed around the individual and their needs, based on the time they've available. And again, it kind of comes back to that point. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing what matters. When you think about that list of 10, 2 of those things being worth 5 to 10 times more in value than the other 8, you can see the difference. Most people think, oh, let's clear the 8 and then we'll get to the big stuff. That's how most people operate. We'll get all these little things done, clear the desk, and then I'll get to the big thing. But that big thing doesn't happen, and it's tomorrow, and it's kicked out for a week or a month, and it just it kind of drifts on us.
And then you probably come across perfectionism and procrastination a lot from business owners. How does that impact then? Because if someone comes to you and they feel almost overwhelmed with what they have in front of them, then by not actually making a start, because you know what, what's the point starting? It'll never get done. That must be a constant or a common trait you find in entrepreneurs especially.
Oh, very common. Yeah. And it's not actually, most people think it's procrastination or distract, but that's like the symptom. It's not really the root cause. The root cause is just the system you have. If you think about it, the reason we procrastinate is because, you mentioned it there, overload. We've so much to do, we don't even know where to start. But if you have a proper system in place, yes, you might have 50 other things you need to do, but they're parked in the system. You don't have to think about them. You just have to think about that next thing, okay? And then that next thing, and then that next thing. And it's the same with perfectionism as well. And perfectionism is I need to know what step 5 is, and what step 9 is, and what step 10 is. And if I don't know everything perfectly, then I don't start, okay? But again, the system, remember, it's a forcing system, so it gets you to start. And once you start, like, it's like I often describe it as, you go down the road when you're trying to do anything, and there's a lot of fog in front of you. But guess what? You can see the next 20 meters. And when you get through that next 20 meters, you know what? You'll see the next 20, and then the next 20, and the next 20. So I always get people just to start. And the smallest, seemingly insignificant step forward, like, it could be, what's the first step here? Well, the first step could be open up the laptop. The next step could be opening up that Word document. The next step could be typing anything. And then you're moving. Okay. It's always about what is the next smallest step here, okay, to get you moving. And again, it comes back to that system, a system that forces you to do that and to focus on execution. And then all of a sudden, you start to transform the way you act, you start to transform the way you think, and you start to transform the way you do things. And so really, the perfectionism, procrastination is such a big thing, but they're symptoms of something else. They're symptoms of just not having that system in place for you that's working.
And what kind of results then could someone expect after following your program? How long does the program last?
So it's 8 weeks, 8 weeks process. Weeks. Yeah. 8 weeks.
And so then typically, you mentioned they're getting more for their time per hour, if you like. So that's kind of, at the end of it all, that's what they're looking to achieve, is more productivity, more performance.
Exactly. It's and you know what it's different for everyone. Some people want to earn more in the business. Some people want to, they're bottlenecked working long hours. It's different for everybody. But what I can guarantee is definitely for any, like, even I've seen statistics there lately from the US Department of Labour showing the average person was probably productive about 31% of the time. We don't realise it until we meet somebody that's doing it a lot better or a lot more than us, or we see this and we realise, Jesus, there was a lot more in me and I didn't realise it. There's so many inefficiencies so there's a lot of scope for improvement that without even people realising it. So we get 2 to 3x increases in people's productivity. So we measure baseline, we measure again after 2 to 3x increases in productivity, and we typically on average is about 12 hours back every week for yourself. Now we've had people that have like we've people like a woman finished me recently, she got 22 hours. Another person that finished with me, that girl I was talking about, she got 50 plus hours work back. If you multiply that out over a year, it's
huge,
mad.
Yeah.
Like if you only get 5 hours back a week, that's 250 hours a year, that's plus hours, that's 5 working weeks at a time a year. And if someone said to you, here's 5 working weeks at a time a year for your business, like, what could you do with that time? Like, you'd take someone's hand off for it. But it depends on where the starting point is. So obviously the person that's working only maybe 30 hours a week, they're not going to be getting 50 hours back or probably not even 10 hours back maybe, but the average is 12 hours. There's so much scope for improvement there. So we can definitely 2 to 3x people's output and get at least 12 12 hours back for people on average. And for many cases, it's a lot more than that.
That's brilliant, yeah. And do you offer different approaches then for entrepreneurs specifically versus those working in a more structured corporate environment, Barry?
So everything is customized. So yes, like I often say, that, okay, the formula here works. Okay, the formula is the same for everybody. But what I do is I sit down and before we even get into the coaching, we gather the data. I create what I call a time efficiency plan, where I'm looking at everything in their day, their challenges, their roadblocks, their goals, their vision, their daily tasks, their repeatable tasks, their energy levels, all this sort of stuff. So we build out all that before it. And then I plug the data into the formula. And it's that then that gets them the results on the far side. So it's customized. It's customized based on the data that goes into the formula. Okay, different data goes in, different results come out the far side. So that's how we kind of structure things. It's different people in different workplaces have different challenges. In corporate, okay, you don't have maybe as much flexibility as you would have with a business. So we have to adapt to that as well. So it's customized based on who I'm working with.
Okay, and you mentioned to me as well a while ago that you've co-authored a book. And is that book released? Because it wasn't at the time I was talking to you.
It's going to be released in about a week.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah, in about a week. Yeah,
so tell us a bit about that. Who's the co-author?
So it's basically Les Brown, and probably no one in Ireland knows Les Brown, but he's one of the world's top motivational speakers, and he's massive now in the US. So basically, myself and Les Brown have a book coming out together called Rise Above, and it's coming out now in about a week. Where actually it was supposed to be out last week, but Amazon are still waiting on some sign off. So it's supposed to be getting confirmation any day now, but at some stage in the next week it will be live, will be out on Amazon, and it will be I'll be publishing on my social channels and stuff like that.
And it's available both physically and Kindle version.
Kindle version, yeah. Okay. It will be both, yeah.
And what inspired this collaboration with Les Brown?
So basically, I'm in a marketing mastermind in the US, Rudy Moore's marketing mastermind. And about a year ago, I was over in Miami at one of his mastermind events, and Les Brown was there. He was one of the speakers and everything like that. So got chatting to him anyways, and got to know him a bit better, and like typical Irish, like few drinks that evening, and a very late night, and you talk about plenty of things, but we kind of like he learned more about my story and stuff like that, and it turns out that he was authoring a book called Rise Above, which is a collection of stories from different people, different business owners, and he asked me, would I be interested in co-authoring the book with him and having a chapter in his book, and look, I obviously snapped his hand off for it. So that's where it started, basically about 12 months ago, and it kind of went from there. It's been a long process. I thought it would be a shorter process.
I'd say it just doesn't come. Yeah, stuff like that always takes time. It really does. And what key themes or lessons can readers expect from this book? It follows on from your own kind of productivity stuff as well. It's all intertwined.
It does, yeah. It really focuses around, okay, people going through personal challenges and how they can, the book's called Rise Above, how they can actually overcome these challenges. And it's kind of a collection of kind of inspiring stories and people's journeys and how they've risen above them to kind of overcome the challenges that they've had in their life, and what they've learned from that process and what they've learned from their journey to inspire other people out there. There's a lot of other people out there that are going through other challenges. Some people that you just won't even realize. Like, I talk to a lot of people every week, an awful lot of people, like, and it's amazing how people open up and tell you like what they're going through, like, and it's people are going through tough situations, very tough situations, and it could be family, or it could be themselves, or different things. And this is a kind of a collection of stories to help inspire people like that are going through a tough time to keep taking steps forward. And that's the key, and that's what I've learned in life, is no matter what it is, if you just keep taking steps forward, if you just stay consistent, you will get there. If you keep knocking on enough doors, you're going to get that in destination. It might be faster than you think, it might be slower than you think, but if you keep taking steps forward in that journey, you're going to get that in destination eventually. And that's just the kind of message behind the book.
That's great. Well, when this episode comes out, I'll put a link to all of that stuff on it. But one thing I did want to ask you about your business, because I see you everywhere on Facebook and Instagram. And I said it to Florence months and months and months ago. I says, Barry is everywhere on my social media. Now, for anyone that doesn't understand what Facebook ads and Instagram ads does, it just shows that what you're doing works.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're targeting the right audience.
I have everyone plagued.
But it shows the power of Facebook ads and how getting your message out there to different videos. Like it's not the same video and the same message I see multiple. But it just goes to show the power of social media for online businesses and how so many businesses still aren't utilizing the likes of Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, definitely.
But you're belting out those ads.
I am.
But
I tell you what, the amount of people that comes up to me about them and stuff like that, I nearly feel like apologising because they're just hitting people whether they want to see them or not. So look, for anyone listening that doesn't like them, can I apologise? But yeah, we're I don't know how I'd function only for them. Like, to be honest, like I'd say 95% of my business comes through Facebook, Instagram ads and stuff like that. And it was a huge learning curve, actually, the whole thing. I thought,
the algorithm.
Oh my God. I thought, I throw a bit of content here, put a bit of money behind it and watch the dollar bills roll in. Not at all. The amount of time and money I spent doing it the wrong way, learning from that, like it took a lot of testing to get it right. Now thankfully it's decent now.
Video ads have a better ROI from what I gather, and I do see you do a lot of video ads.
Yeah,
you obviously split tested those and all that.
Yeah, the images didn't work. I was putting out stuff at all, and it kind of, I don't know. I think it builds a bit more trust of people if they see you talking. Because what 100%. Typically I do is it's a video and then people watch, it's a very short 30-second video. I want to give them a kind of a brief idea what I'm about. Then it's into a longer, maybe 15-minute video once they go through from there. And then if they want, they can book a call with me for where I'll do a deeper dive with them, see what their challenges are, kind of help them build out a roadmap to kind of get them some results. And if they want more in-depth help, then I'd happily help them with that as well. But it's what I found is that people just weren't booking the calls if they didn't see me almost in the video. So the first time they'd nearly see me was on a call, after taking 3 or 4 different actions, and I wasn't building enough trust with people for them to actually take the action. So I found the video, and even to get winning video ads, like you go through, you dump some amount of them, you test them, they don't hit the mark, it's test and each stage of the funnel. My wife and as we laugh at me, I was all about this funnel. You'd be well aware of the funnel, like as well, like that you only get so many, you have to get so many people in the top of the funnel, and then you're going to lose X percentage every stage. So if you don't get enough people at the top of the funnel and make every stage work with the stats, you're never going to make it work because the ads are bloody expensive. So
they are. People don't see that. Do you use then ClickFunnels or Go High Level or something?
ClickFunnels. Yeah, ClickFunnels.
You should look into Go High Level.
Yeah, it's a bit afraid of actually moving everything across.
Well,
there
in that instance, I can imagine.
Yeah,
Go High Level is like ClickFunnels on steroids.
Really.
And there's a huge learning curve.
Really, yeah.
But when you're in the game, and
I'm sure there's probably people out there that can help you transition ClickFunnels to
massive. There's massive amount of those.
So I heard a few people say that now.
I mean, I used to use ClickFunnels years ago. Now I've only got in on Go High Level a year.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning the ropes.
Yeah.
But again, there's so much more functionality compared to like ClickFunnels. So, but then again, if it's working, why change? That's the other thing.
I have broke the whole thing so many times by changing. So basically, for anyone that's listening that kind of doesn't do this stuff, like it's basically like when you're testing, like you have to get the ad right, and then when the ad works right, you have to get the copy right, and then when they go from the click to get them people to click through to your landing page, you have to have the headline right to get people to click from that to your video, and then you have to really dial in your video and have your call to action. It's just there's so many pieces you have to test, and I made the mistake of like, it's broken, let's try all these other changes. And I'd make a mess of it because you're supposed to just change one thing at a time. Because if you change more than one thing, you don't know what's working.
Exactly. You
can't what's not working. Yeah. You can't measure it. So it takes so long to measure. I've broken it so many times and cost myself so much money along the way.
Online business is hard. Despite what people think, you're sitting down at a laptop.
Yeah.
But behind, as we said, behind the curtain, there's a lot of moving parts. People don't realize how difficult it can be.
Yeah.
And then to actually, try and make money to sustain yourself,
Oh, yeah.
because it can get very lonely as well. Online business can be very lonely if you're working from home. Doesn't suit everyone.
Yeah.
This notion of working from home is great, and that doesn't work for everyone.
Exactly.
But it can be a very lonely existence depending on you, the person, as well.
100%.
So going forward then, Barry, what's next? Any projects you're working on? Would you even have plans of sometime in the future releasing your own book?
Yeah, I've kind of thought about it. I think I'll see how this goes. If this is a major disaster, you might never hear from me again. But yeah, possibly some stage in the future, because it is something I probably would like to do and get kind of my information out to people at a wider scale. That the Rise Above book is more about my story and journey and what I learned, but I would love to get my kind of my blueprint out to people and kind of go a bit more in depth with all that and with my own stuff in more detail. But yeah, down the road, definitely, I think I'll have learned a lot from this experience with this book with Les Brown. But I think possibly down the road, I probably would. I'm not sure would anyone buy it or take it, but I think it's something I probably would like to do maybe at some stage. For myself, really, the key aspects for me now in the business is just bolting on other channels. LinkedIn is something that I'm kind of leveraging now at the moment to kind of get out to a wider audience and a more specific audience and stuff like that. I don't want to be over reliant on Facebook ads and Instagram ads either. It's kind of course they could shut you down, and literally they do. They just stop people in the morning for whatever reason. The algorithm doesn't like an ad and they shut you down. Are you
cultivating your own email list?
Yes.
Right.
That's a big thing.
Yeah. That's yours.
It is. That's it. Cultivating that email list, like people coming in, anybody that, clicks through from the video, that watches my more in-depth video, it gets, they go onto my email list, and then, I can email them and send them out contents and stuff like that.
Put them into a drip.
Exactly.
Campaign, yeah.
And then, ultimately over time, some of them will come back to you looking for help and stuff like that. And that's a big thing as well. So leveraging my emails and my content and just like looking at LinkedIn, I think there's a lot of opportunity in LinkedIn that's kind of untapped at the moment.
It is. It's compared to the other platforms, and it's specifically for professionals.
It is, yeah.
So if you can target in there, it opens up a whole new pool of business. But so where can people find you, learn more about you, social media, all that? Give us your plug for that.
So if I haven't put anyone off now after that, so you get me at barrycryan.com, and then on Instagram it's at Cryan Barry, and then LinkedIn, you can just, if you search my name, there's two Cryan Barrys or Barry Cryans out there, so you'll probably find me that way if you just search on LinkedIn for my name as well, or Google me. Hope there's other stuff that doesn't come up when you Google me, but you can Google me either. You'll find
and your
some
business
stuff.
name is Do More Better.
Do More Better. Do More Better. Yeah, that's the business name. If you Google either my name or Do More Better, you'll find something on me.
It just reminds me of you talked about Tony Conboy back in school.
Oh yeah,
could do better.
Tony
was on the podcast last year or whatever, and his episode was called Could Do Better.
Brilliant.
But listen, Barry, thanks very much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Carol. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.